Hey, Holly. Yeah. Hey, Bruce. Hey, AJ. That's what jam tracks are for. They're for trying stuff out and seeing if they work. The whole reason, somebody said a funny comment on I think on this jam track because it was a new drop, and he goes, "Well, that's too long for a pop song." I'm like, "It's not a pop song; it's a jam track." So, um, I let me know if the track is too quiet or too loud. Is it? Can you hear both the guitar and the track? I still haven't figured out a way to feed you directly off it. Why are we humming so much? It's just because it's so gainy. It must be, yeah. I'm gonna do something here with this diagram on my left. No, on my left, looking at it, but on my right, when you're looking at me, imagining you're me. I don't know. I don't know how that works. I see what you see, basically. Let's put it that way. Um, can you see what I see? Where is this thing? Because I'm going to. There it is. I'm going to duplicate it again. And I'm going to put a box around the pentatonic we're going to work on today. I think that'll really help for you to not look at that cluster of notes and go, "Oh, I don't understand. It's too confusing," and because it's not. All right, I want to go red, and then I want to go nothing on the inside there, and I want to make it bigger. Really? All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a box around pentatonic, what I call pentatonic number 2. But I like showing the whole fretboard because you get the context. All right, so I am going to remove this, or maybe I'll just make it small so I have it and hide it. I'll hide it underneath the other one. So all I did was I put a box around pentatonic number 2. All right, you see that? So that way we can kind of, and one of the things that makes pentatonic 2 kind of number 2 is because it's right next door to number 1, and that makes life easier. So if you're in number 1, you can go up to number 2. Stevie Ray Vaughan would use the top 3 strings a lot on this one, so that would be like. At least he would visualize or think that box. He might do, where he actually wouldn't play this note, and he would play the third string, the higher of the 2 third string notes. He would play it with the second finger. Let's see, A minor pentatonic, exactly. But we're just gonna practice. We're gonna do some practicing with trying to make it musical and not just an exercise. I did some jam tracks a while back. I don't remember how many, not jam tracks, I did some videos a while back where I played a lick and gave you a second to play it. I don't remember. They weren't, if they were popular, if they'd really taken off, I would have. It was designed for beginners for the most part. Let's see. What's this one? Oh, that's hot. Okay, let's see this one. So we're going to practice a scale a little bit, and then I'm gonna play licks in it, and I'm gonna play gaps. And you're gonna imitate me, and I'll probably put longer gap than that in. The only problem is the chords are gonna change, so the lick might work really nice over the A minor, but not so much over the F major 7 or the G6. But this progression is very diatonic, very neighboring. It's all in the same key. It's all in the same, shapes. You got E's in all these chords. You got a lot of common tones. So we should, any lick I do should either fit perfectly on the chord. Like if I do this, okay, which again, in pentatonic number 1 would be this. And that's kind of a different lick. I wouldn't do that very often. Because it's like reaching out with the pinky, and then you got the root note on the first string, and you wiggle it too much and it goes off the edge of the fretboard. So if I'm hearing that lick, if I want to hear that melody in my solo, I would probably go up here and play it there. It's the same exact 3 notes, but it's just in the next pentatonic. And I could play it. I could play here. Oops. I could play here. And then back up to here. You can play that lick in every pentatonic, no problem. But some of them just, you're on your 3rd finger. It's a nice, and you got room to wiggle it, so you're not going to fall off the edge of the fretboard, which is really handy. Hard to give a good vibrato on the first string. Does that make sense? Oh, you got to get your glasses. You can't spell without them either. What I'm playing is the bottom 3 strings. Yeah. Okay. But Stevie would do that a lot with, things like that. You've got that flat 5 right there for the blues lick. You got a flat 5 here for the blues lick. So when you're doing it, and I'll sneak in the blues lick, blues notes. That blues note, aka the flat 5, is not going to be in. Oops, it's not going to be in this. It's not going to be there. I didn't add the blues notes. We've done this before. I think we did it when we did like learning to like solo over blues or whatever in the key of E, and we started creating hybrid scales where we combined the blues scale, the major blues scale, the minor blues scale, and the let's see, the Mixolydian scale, and we basically ended up with almost every note could be justified, except like in E, like the C and the F and then the G sharp were like, so we could justify easily 9 of the 12 potential notes. So hey, Richard, what's going on? Good to see you again. And Gary, good to see you. And Holly, welcome back. We do have another mod. Well, see, Dennis isn't here. Is Bob here? Bob's been modding too. Not that there's much to do. Everybody's pretty cool. We haven't had a troll in a while. Maybe YouTube or a bot or whatever. We haven't had a lot of bots and trolls, but they do tend to come in fits and spurts. Okay, so let's go over this scale. Let's just jump right in. I've got a session today for a video game, and I got a whole stack of music here I got to get through. And one of the cues says dulcimer, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I don't know if this is playable on dulcimer. And he even said, if it's not playable, don't worry about it. And I'm like, no, I always worry about it. Let's see, where is it? Dulcimer, where's that? No, it's this top one here. It's actually fair. I mean, it's fairly simple. It's fast. That's the only problem. And I'm thinking, is he thinking hammer dulcimer? Because I have one, and I've just like got one last year, and I've messed around with it a little bit. I actually did use it on something. I don't know if they ended up using what I did on the thing. Maybe they did. I have a composer I work for. He has a hammer dulcimer, but he's a percussionist. So it's kind of one of those things where it's almost you'll have more skills as a hammer dulcimer player if you're a percussionist than if you're a guitar player, which actually makes sense. Even though it's strings, you've got to have mallet skills, and then you have to have good aiming, which is really the hard part. And you got to tune the dang thing. That's the hard part, in my opinion. I think these phrases. 1, 2, da da da. Let's see, da da. Let's see, 1, 2, da da. 1, 2, da 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 da. Yeah, they're short enough. Da 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 da. They're short enough that I could probably work on the phrase, hit record, play the phrase, work on the next phrase, hit. So I'm gonna try this on hammer dulcimer. Just setting it up and tuning it is kind of a pain. I'm not going to charge for that time, I don't think, because I want to, it'll be kind of like practice for me. So I'll give a stab at it. I'll know within the first 8 bars if it's possible. Welcome to my world. So that's kind of, what I'm going to do. Okay, so this scale, we're going to start with our middle finger at the 8th fret on the bottom string. And I'm sorry, this gets woofy. This note is really woofy in this room. And then we're going to go, so 8, 10. So we got to use our pinky. 8, 10. And then 7, 10. 7, 10. 7, 9. And then shift up and go 8, 10, 8, 10. And you can tell if we go back to the 3rd string, we got 7, 9 with our 1st and 3rd. You could play, if you want to be kind of a purist for just playing the scale or learning the scale, you could totally stay in the position. So what that means is I'm in technically the 7th position, which means my first finger is assigned the 7th fret. That's when you hear about position playing or 7th position or whatever. It's more of a classical guitar term. So you could play it like this pure, okay? Totally fine. What I'm saying is that you might do a position shift where you go from 7th position, and when you get to the top 2 strings, you move your hand to 8th position, which means that your first finger is assigned every note on the 8th string, your second finger gets the 9th string, your third finger gets the 10th string, and your pinky gets the 11th string. 11th fret, sorry, not string. Yeah, hammer dulcimer is kind of one of those folk instruments. I remember seeing hammer dulcimer players down at the Sawdust Festival. I used to play at the Sawdust Festival every year in Laguna Beach, and there would be these people that were, playing songs. And the thing is, hammer dulcimer is very ringy. So the notes in this are F, E, C, A, D, G. It's basically F minor scale. There's 7ths, but there's no 6ths. So it's kind of a 6-note scale. So they probably can all ring out against each other. Should be fine. But the song, I'm listening to the song that I've got to work on today. It's in D minor, but then it goes to a C chord, but it goes to an E flat, and it goes to a couple other chords. I think A flat, maybe out of the key. So the dulcimer part looks like it's only written over the D minor diatonic stuff. So we'll see. But yeah, dulcimer, when you hit a note, it just keeps ringing. Bing a ding a ding. It's like those tetrachords. It's like. That you play a C scale and it sounds like that on dulcimer. So it may work, it may not. Like I said, I'll set it up. I'll tune the notes that I'm going to use. That's the other trick. I may even mute the notes I'm not going to use, so if I accidentally hit them, they don't ring out, or they don't ring out sympathetically. However, when you do that, that sometimes takes away the the quality of the instrument. If you mute the notes you're not using, it makes it sound less like a dulcimer and more like a sample of a dulcimer. So, hey, what's going on, Sco? Good to see you. Sam's in the house. Good to see you. Hey, Zorba. I hope not. Gary, I hope that hammer dulcimers does not lead to step dancing, but you never know. I'm not going to be, I'm never going to be a renowned hammer dulcimer player. So basically, I can say I have a hammer dulcimer. That's about as much as I can say. So, but let's see, the notes in this thing those are all the notes there. So it should be, I should be able to, and generally the like scale tones are opposite each other, so you can kind of almost go like this, right, left, right to play. I don't know. We'll see. I forget. It's very complex to me. Okay, so let's take this scale backwards. Now, when I talk about position playing again, if you want to be a purist for just learning the scale, you can stay in 7th position, and therefore when you play the top 2 strings, use your 2nd and 4th finger like that. Make this box, it's the same notes, but with these 2 fingers. And that's not a bad thing to do because those are, if it's difficult, then maybe it's something you need to work on until it's not difficult. But when the rubber meets the road and you're actually using the scale in the context of playing a song, you're probably not going to go, it's just not going to be meaty enough, and you're not going to be I've never seen anyone do that. It's always, and if you're using a chunk of a scale, like for example, if I only use this note here, the 9th fret of the 3rd string, and then the 8th fret, 10th fret, 8th fret, 10th fret, if that's all I'm going to use of that scale, then I could totally play an 8th position, meaning my first finger is going to be assigned all the 8th fret notes. Okay, so so let's play this descending. We'll go ahead and do it pure. We'll do it 7th position. So we'll start with our pinky, 10th fret, 2nd finger at the 8th fret. Then again, same thing, 10th fret, 8th fret. Okay, hopefully you can see my hand. Third finger. Sorry, did I say fret? Yeah, 10th fret. Yeah, 8th fret. Then we have 9th fret, 7th fret, and then pinky. And then 10, 7, and then 10, 8. Let's do that again. 10, 8, 10, 8, 9, 7, 10, 7, 10, 7, 10, 8. Now what I just did there was I played every other note of the pentatonic, which meant I was just going to be laying down fingers to play these notes. 7, 8, and then laying down and going 10, 10, and then I went 7, 7, and then 10, 10. It's kind of a good exercise, actually. It's a good exercise to practice playing adjacent strings. And then 7, 7 again, and then we have what's that? 10, 9, and then 7, 8, 9, 8. That alone is kind of a fun little exercise for finger independence. And I would use that, not that entire phrase, but there might be a time where I go, yeah, this sounds really cool because it's not something you would normally do on the guitar. On the piano, yeah, violin actually is not difficult, but on guitar, playing fourths is kind of awkward because you have a lot of same fret adjacent string stuff. Okay, so we played the scale up, and there I did the position shift and then down. And I'm totally fine with you doing that position shift. Okay. Again, if you want to just be a purist for when you're practicing and kind of trying to memorize the scales, you can totally do it in one position. But if you want to practice it in the way you're probably going to use it, in the context, then you can go ahead and do that little position shift there at the second string. Okay, so okay, I'm gonna play some licks. I'm not without the music, and I'm gonna have you do them with me. Okay, so let's just do this. Let's start out again. I'm gonna be in the 8th position. We're gonna really spend most of our time on the top 3 strings for this pentatonic, because again, what we're doing here is we tend to camp out at pentatonic 1. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when we hear higher notes, that's a natural, the next place to go is just to go to the very next pentatonic, and you're almost kind of like we talked about in the past, the box shapes. We have this box, and it's the same thing, the same 4 notes are here up an octave, and the same 4 notes are here down an octave. And so when you want to go higher than pentatonic 1, you go to just do the top 2 or 3 strings of pentatonic number 2. When you want to go lower in pentatonic than pentatonic 1, you're going to go to the bottom 2 strings of pentatonic number 5. So you can see those boxes. If you see that, it's like a dot and then an R and a dot and an R right there. 3rd fret, 5th fret, 3rd fret, 5th fret, and then you see the same exact shape at the 5th fret and the 7th fret, and then the same shape again at the 8th fret and the 10th fret. And that's called box playing. And I always, the best example I can think of it is George Harrison, because he goes. I mean, because he could have gone. Hammer on from this note to this note, and that's what he did. So he slid down. When you go horizontally or vertically or diagonally is what we're doing. This is diagonal playing. You're literally. Let's see if we can find something long enough here. This. You're literally kind of going this way on the fretboard, and then up here. So pentatonic number 5 to pentatonic number 1. Pentatonic number 1 here to pentatonic number 2, and so that, and then the thing is, you get that done. Let's say you really like pentatonic number 2. Same thing applies. You go down to pentatonic number 1 when you want to go below pentatonic number 2, and you go up to pentatonic number 3 when you want to go above pentatonic number 2. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm playing diagonally across technically 3 pentatonic scales, but my home scale it would be pentatonic number 2. Does that make sense? Hey, Josh, good morning. Oh, this is perfect. Unless you're making like sanding noise. Are you spraying right now? Josh, you can make guitars, but your main job at the Guitar Factory is doing the finishes. Doing the paint jobs and the finishes. You should definitely, Josh, what's the name of your the company you work for? I want everybody to check it out at some point. They should all know who you work for. And and you didn't go to the NAMM show, so you're going to go next year, though, I'm sure. But if they have a lot of guitars to make, you probably get to stay home. Okay. All right, so here, let's just do this. I'm gonna play some licks in pentatonic number 2, and I want you to imitate them. I'm gonna give you a second to do it, but I don't want to give you too much. Yeah, I think he. People don't always hit that open G, but he hits an open G there. And again, that lick is probably up there in pentatonic number 4. I mean number 4. It's just hard. It's hard to bend that first string and not break it. And so I'm thinking, and then the fact that he goes right to that note tells me he's not doing that. That's what he's doing. So, hey Nora, what's going on? Well, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do musical stuff. So, okay, so the scale we're gonna work on, like I said, is this one right here. Oh, I already pointed the wrong way. Right there. And this is what I call pentatonic number 2. That's my name. If you go into if you're talking to another guitar player, hey, play pentatonic number 2, he'll be like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Sorry. I call this one pentatonic number 1 because that's the main one everybody knows. The one right next to it, which is super usable because it's there. And you'll notice in pentatonic number 1 or number 2, there's only 2 R notes, root notes. All right, there's only 2 A's. So it's a little, you have 1/3 less notes to kind of land on in the root key. But when you play pentatonic number 1 and pentatonic number 5, those are the only 2 scales that have 3 R's in it, or 3 root notes. So you have a lot of places where you can land on an A. And this song is in A, but you don't want to land on A too much, or it just sounds kind of boring musically speaking. So, Josh, Cower guitars, that's right. Cower, yeah, they're beautiful guitars. I played one at the NAMM show. Played great. Neck was phenomenal. I didn't plug it in. They didn't have amps where they were. They were kind of in this little showcase area where there were a bunch of boutique guitars displayed. But I said hi to your boss. Your boss was there. So do this with me. So I'm at the 8th fret, and I'm going to the 10th fret. And again, look, I'm in 8th position. My first finger is playing the 8th fret. And what that is a G to A. A is one of the roots. See, nor playing musically, that's of course means something different to everybody. One of the best ways you can kind of guarantee that you're going to play a little bit more musical is just to slow down and to listen what you're doing. And then also try to hear a melody in your head and try to play that. So you're playing, I tell people you should sing along with your playing. And what happens at first is you go, da, da, da. You're singing after you're playing because you're like, you don't know what it's going to sound like until you play it. But eventually you do it at the same time, like that, and then you can go bum 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 bum. Then you can start getting the melodies in your head to the fretboard, and there's billions, if not trillions, of melodies in your head because you've been listening to music your entire life and you don't realize it, but there's all that. It's all up there. And I know it's up there because if you ever hear a song for a second time, and even if you were 5 years old and now you're 25 years old, you'll be like, that sounds familiar. It's because that stupid melody, that stupid song is still rattling around in your head from 20 years prior. But it's true. It's almost always the case with your brain is able to kind of retain all that stuff and stores it. And that's the same kind of process you're going to use when you start taking melodies out of your head. You start to hear that stuff. So, okay. I don't really do it as much as I say you should, because I'm not spending a lot of time soloing it, improvising solos in my daily guitar playing. I'm playing guitar all day long because that's what I do. When I'm working, I'm playing something. Balalaika, guitar, I don't know. Okay, so play that. Okay, now play this. Okay, so I went 8th fret to the 10th fret. So 8th fret of the first string to the 10th fret of the second string. Exactly. John's asking, so Tom, a lot of the shifting from one or another upper or lower form just to gain higher or lower notes, not in the current form you're playing. That, and also, again, I just showed you that where it's like, I can totally play that lick in pentatonic number 1, but it's not as meaty as there. And like I said, that's a common Stevie Ray Vaughan lick. So let's play that one. So you're gonna take your second finger and play the 9th fret of the 3rd string, and then the 8th fret on the next string with your first finger, then 3rd finger on the 10th fret, and then 8th fret on the top string, and then we're going back to the 10th fret of the 2nd string. And see, here we can do, and when I'm doing vibrato, I'm going up and down. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's like the blind golfer that challenged Tiger Woods. He said, as long as I get to pick the tee time, it was like midnight. But this is the kind of thing where you can close your eyes. If you're in one position, you really don't need to look at your fretboard. You'll eventually, if you're staring at your fretboard all the time, that may be a habit, and you may not actually need to do it. I would actually, if I get kids to try to feel the fretboard and play chords, I would take an album. This tells you how long ago I was teaching. I would take an album and put it between their eyes and their hands so they couldn't see their hands. And it forced them to kind of like, that way they could keep their eyes on the music. Because when I'm doing sessions, I've got a stack of music here. I've got to be looking at the music. I can't really be looking at my hands. That's where not looking at your hands is handy. But if you're not reading music on a daily basis, you're probably not going to need that skill. One problem I have is when I try to take a melody from my head to the guitar, is that the melody ends up having notes outside of the major or minor scales I have in mind. Yeah, that could happen, but that's okay, because if just like this, okay, that's all in the scale, but if I do the blues note, okay, and that's, so now I'm playing with my first finger on the 8th fret of the 3rd string, then the 2nd finger on the 9th fret of the 3rd string, like that, and then first finger on the 8th fret of the 2nd string, and then I'm going to go to the top string, 8th fret, and then back to the 3rd, and that note's outside of it, outside of that scale. I totally, it's like, oh, I heard that, but not technically in this key. But if you're hearing like, if you're hearing, and John, yeah, there's a lot of it depends on like what kind of music you listen to growing up too. Like if you were listening to a lot of, bluegrass music, or if you were listening to a lot of gypsy music, or if you're listening to a lot of flamenco music, then you would hear like, you might hear that major 7th, right? Wouldn't necessarily work in this chord progression because we have a G chord. So if this progression went from to F and then to E major, it would be a totally different progression. In fact, I did didn't we do a Latin pop jam I posted a while ago? And that was to practice your harmonic minor scale. And that's a very Latin pop kind of thing, key to be playing in. But in this context, yeah, there's definitely going to be notes that you're going to hear that might be outside of the scale, and they work. Your ear is going to be the final judge, and it's your ear, not anybody else's. If you like the sound of it, then it doesn't matter if it's outside the scale. So, oh, Dennis is here. And Dennis just stated my point much more succinctly, as anyone's able to do. Okay. Let's do this lick again. This one here, second finger on the ninth fret, 8, 10, and then 8, 10. Okay, 9, 8th fret on the second string, third finger on the 10th fret of the second string, and then first finger on the first string, 8th fret. But this time we're going to do that same lick, like that. Okay, you got that? Play it with me. Yeah, thank you for subscribing. And thumb up. Half bend to the 7th, to root, yep. Yeah, that's okay. And Stevie would do this a lot, hit that first note twice. And play them all short too. How am I playing them short? Well, I'm just lifting the finger, the string off the fret, but I'm not lifting the finger off the string. So I'm pushing down on the fret here with my second finger, trying not to flip you off. And then don't lift it all the way off, or you'll get the open G string ringing that. Yeah, you're right, Capone. It's totally true. I like that, the second as well, or the ninth. So Stevie would hit that. Another way you can mute it is I'm using my pick here. I'm resting my pick on the string. Or I might put my thumb on it if I want to pick the next string. You can just practice that. Long, short. It's kind of like Morse code, right? Long, you know, dot, 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 dash, 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 no, dash, 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 dot, 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 dash, 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 dot, dot. There's a song called SOS by the SOS band, actually. And I did it with my band. I think I did it with both my bands. I may have done it with Malachi, and I may have done it with Rendezvous back in the late 70s, early 80s. And at one point, they vocals sing dot, 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 dash, 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 dot, dot, dot. That's how I know the letter S and the letter O in Morse code. It's like dot, dash, or, dash, dot. But here's the thing you can do. Again, if you're looking for ways to change up what you're doing, you can practice hitting every note twice. Lee Ritenour would do that a lot when he was soloing. Almost sounds like you have a delay on it. Da, 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 you know, you hit a note and poor man's delay. I couldn't afford a delay pedal when I was a kid, so that's what I would do live. It worked. Let's see, middle finger bend to root A flat, root A flat to A. Oh, yeah, that might be, that gets into the harmonic minor. And over this progression, you might not do that. But that is kind of cool, though. That would be the same as just going. And so all that is, I'm just doing kind of a chromatic lead in to the root note, which is A. And this note's in the pentatonic scale, but this note is not. But it's just a passing tone. You're not sitting on it. If I did that, I still kind of like it. Because it kind of takes you somewhere. But usually when you do something like that kind of chromatic phrase, it's a passing tone, meaning you're just there for a second. Well, God bless you, John, so much. You could do the same thing on the first string. See, we're in the key of A minor, but here we are playing a C sharp, which is an A major tone. But if you're just on your way from C to D, why not? It would be there if you slid. Just breathe. You don't really hear it. But on guitar, you're going to get that. In slow motion, it sounds like this. That's me in slow motion. And then I like going from the D to the E. And that is the E flat, which is the blues tone. Okay, so do this with me. Go 3, 4, and then to D to E, G to A. So that would sound like this. It's going to get a little tiring, but that's the kind of thing you can use as a theme that you can do variations on. This would be the theme. This could be a variation. You could do this. You could do a bend it kind of thing. That would be a variation. Going between two different notes would be a variation. So you could say. Here's your solo, and what I did was I kind of set it up almost right away with my little theme, my 3-note thing. Dun 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 dun. What that's 4 notes. Dun 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 dun. It's actually 2 notes, but it's 4 beats. It's a rhythmic and melodic theme that Beethoven uses on all the instruments in various spots of the. It's amazing, and you can do that. You know, I'm doing a chromatic climb up. You can make it. That would be a variation, like I said, going down. Even making that part of a bigger lick. And you know, you can overstate your theme, but to be honest, the only reason to do the theme is to give you a starting place, an idea. It's not necessarily a high musical concept. It's a very simple concept, but it's like so often when we're soloing, we're like, I do the same thing every time. Oh my gosh. But if you listen to the guys that really know how to solo, it's kind of like being, this is a weird comparison, okay? But it's kind of like being a stand-up comedian. You know, when you watch a stand-up comedian and they do a bunch of jokes and they got you laughing, and then they reference the first joke or an earlier joke, or they close referencing a middle joke in the middle, or you know, they almost kind of wrap it all up, and that's kind of what a good comedian can do. He can kind of do bookends, and that's, you know, if you start out with some. Now you may do a whole solo after that and never do that chromatic thing until very end. You might and finish it off that way, and that's kind of like bookends. But when you're improvising, which means making it up as you go, or I like to call it spontaneous composing. When you're spontaneously composing, you have to have something to get you going. And if you're just thinking inside of a scale, it's really going to limit you. You're really going to find yourself you're gonna find yourself just playing boxes and shapes and no interesting melodies, and it's just going to sound like an exercise. So what you want to do is you want to try to create. Oh no, you got to go back to work, John. Well, shoot, you paid to be here. you paid the entrance fee, and now you're going to leave. You're just going to walk out like that. Hey, what's U.S. Ushakov 3000. I'm going to call you 3000. And Nor, wow, Tom, tried what you just said, and it really blew my mind. Thanks for the tip. The theme and variation thing. Yeah, it's a game changer. Because I always say this. Guitar players typically spend 95% of their time practicing soloing, and when they get to the gig, they spend 95% of their time playing rhythm. So they really should be practicing the thing they're using the most, which is rhythm, because everybody wants a good rhythm guitar player, a good solid rhythm guitar player. Not everybody needs a lead guitar player who can take blazing solos for 5 minutes on every song, and you're not going to have much of an audience if you do that. Now, obviously, Joe Satriani would argue with me, or Joe, was it Joe Bonamassa? Is it Joe Bonamassa? Yeah, Joe Bonamassa would argue with that, and they have success in that. But I'm just talking about in general. And especially if you had a cover band, and if you broke every song down and you're doing a Beyonce song and you put a five minute guitar solo in the middle, you're probably not going to get a lot of gigs. So, not that you would necessarily do a Beyonce song, but you know what I'm saying. If you're in a cover band, okay. So let's do this lick. Okay. So what I'm doing is 10, 8, 10, 8, 10. On the bottom two strings, or top two strings. I generally think of them as being the top two strings. Visually, they're the bottom, but musically, they're the top. Does that make sense? Or geographically, they're the bottom, but harmonically, they're the top. So that's kind of cool, So here's what I want you to do is I want you to see how many different ways you can play those 5 notes, technically only 4 notes, but you can play them different ways. That's the purest, but you can hammer into that first note. You can hammer into the other note. You could go up, you could go chromatically like it. You could slide into it. You could slide down. Yeah, I'm just playing A minor, basically. A minor pentatonic through all these. So now when I get to the G chord, there are two notes in the E minor pentatonic that work over the G triad, but then I made it a G6 chord. So I've got an E in there. So technically there are 3 notes. 3 of the 5 notes in the A minor pentatonic work over that G chord. So that's why I played a G6. So it would just stay really strong in that A minor vibe, okay? If I wanted to go, if I could have changed if I changed that to G sharp, then that instead, and made it E7 over G or something, or E7 over G sharp, then that would make it a Spanish kind of pop thing. But this is more like Toto pop, 80s. This would be yacht rock. Okay, so now let's do this. We did that, right? Now go get that blues note. You got your pinky, get your pinky out and put it on the 11th fret. So you could do this. there I did there was I'm just bending up to that E flat instead of fretting it. Just right there, it's so fun to bend to. So I'm bending up, bringing it down, hitting it again down there, and then hit that 8th fret C note and go to the A. Yeah, I mean, you can, again, it can kind of launch you on some ideas. Okay, let's see, what else can we do? Well, let's get more to the middle strings of this pentatonic scale. So we got this here. So I'm third finger on the 9th fret of the 3rd string, first finger on the 7th fret of the 3rd string, and then pinky on the 10th fret of the 4th string, and then first finger on the 7th fret of the 4th string. So it's a little box. And again, this box you will see here. Oops. And here is the bottom two strings of the pentatonic number 1. Oops. And then it's also up here. Not all box shapes have to be symmetrical. Box shapes could have 2 different fret combinations. But try that. And that's a nice chunk of this scale. I like it. It feels good. If I were to do that in pentatonic number 1, it's across 3 strings. So you can only do it so fast, but if you have just 2 notes per string, if you want to play it really fast, then you want to move it. So a lot of times, and John's not here now, I don't think, but a lot of times you will go to a different scale because an idea or a lick that you have in mind is easier to play or faster to play. Like I said, yeah, it's just not very fun. This is. And you got that blues note you can substitute. So instead of playing the 9th fret of the 3rd string, you can play the 8th fret. I love doing that. That just sounds great. And you can go back and forth. Check it out. I'll do it slower. So it makes it. And so go like this. That should work over every chord. Hey, Sam. See that? Okay, now we play the 8th fret to the 9th fret. Yep. B.B. King definitely did that component. Yeah, and that's the thing. You can take 4 notes and play it. I remember seeing this band that was back in the 80s, early 80s in Los Angeles when I was running sound at a nightclub, and it was this kind of like a cowboy bar, and it wasn't country music, but they would have top 40 bands come in and stuff. And there was this band called, great name actually, the Lost 45s. And it was, you know, I remember they would do, like everybody would get up and dance with, you know, when they did the English, modern English is Melt With You. I'll stop the world and melt with you. But then they would do like Beatles songs and stuff in there. So they did like, at the time that was a new song, but everybody got up and danced to that. But they would go to Beatles and Stones and all this stuff. So they did, Dizzy Miss Lizzy was one of the songs. And the guitar player was great. I mean, he wasn't like a super flashy guitar player, but he would play, what's it? Was it? whatever. It's like, I can't remember how it goes. Is this Miss Lizzie that I'm thinking of? Anyway, the funny thing is it does that lick probably 40 or 50 times in the thing, and he would just do it a different way every time. Like, I don't know how he did. He came up with so many different ways to do it, and for him it was just to stave off boredom, or it was a challenge. But it was actually a really, really good lesson to me. It was like, wow, yeah, that is a real simple melodic idea, and they do it a lot. There's nothing wrong with that. And B.B. King would definitely, he would make those 4 notes work for him, and he could play them thousands of different ways, no doubt. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. We got this little chunk, the middle 2 strings of this pentatonic number 2, right? And you can substitute the flat 5 in there for that E. You can go to E flat, or you could do both, right? Or you could even add the 9th or the 2nd. That's really nice. So check this. So I'm going to do some variations on this. That's just cool too, just because that slide up and down just sounds so slinky. I'll go to the B on the G chord. Look at that, right? Jimmy Page would do that. Go. Knopfler would do that. And that's the thing, if you just work them in a little, like, so basically we kind of did the top 2 strings and we did the middle 2 strings. And again, you're probably going to be less likely to play the bottom 2 strings on this one. Maybe all the good ideas are going to be more down here in pentatonic number 1, because part of the reason, again, you're going up here is to work your way up pitch-wise, up the fretboard. One of the things that, like, when I slid up to that, that's really cool. I love the sound of that. But that also got me into, now I'm in 9th position. So I was in 7th. When I slide up like that, I'm in 9th position, and I got this note here I can hit, which was the 12th fret of the 3rd string. Rich Mullins. Rich Mullins is a Christian artist. I'm trying to think, was he a guitar player too? I can't remember. Yeah, he would, yeah. I always think of B.B. King, I always think of him pulling off that kind of thing. And again, that's a lick that you can do in pentatonic 1. You can't do it in pentatonic 2. It's a different lick. It's no less cool, but it's just a different lick. Same exact notes, but it sounds completely different. Yeah, that's the beauty of the guitar. If I had a 24 fret neck, I could play this E note in 6 different places. As it is, I can play it in 5, and all 5 of them have a different timbre or a different tone. Hey! We're talking about Rich Mullins. I know I knew it at some point. He's a Christian artist. Was he a worship leader or was he a? So a lot of people like that you might not know if you didn't listen to that music. Like Phil Keaggy. I always get people like the best guitar player in the world is Phil Keaggy, and I'm like, yeah. I mean, I knew I had a couple of his records early on. I met him I've met him a couple times. He was at what was his name? A funeral that I went to 20 years ago. Mark Hurd. Mark Hurd's funeral. He was at that, and then I met him when I was a kid. Went to one of his shows and met him after the show. I was like 14 or something. Yeah, Dennis, you'd have to look him up. For some reason, because there's two Rich Mullins, and one of them is still alive, but he's a keyboard player. He's like a jazz guy. He's not a Christian music guy. So the idea of my thing is that you can spend a day with this jam track, okay, and if you do the jam track, I only put an ad at the beginning and an ad at the end. So in 10 minutes, if you keep watching over and over again, you can even stop before it gets to the end and go back to the top. So you might get an ad every time. I think it's like 11 minutes long. So don't download it. Go ahead and listen to it on YouTube, and that way I make a little bit of money and I get some spins on it. But that you can practice that. And what I would do is do it. One day I would play through it and just play pentatonic number 1. The next day I would play through it and use pentatonic number 2. The next day, or if you really want, you could spend a whole week and say, okay, I'm only going to use pentatonic number 2 on this jam. And I'm going to play through the jam. I'm going to play through it, 1 time every day or 2 times every day. And I'm only going to use pentatonic. For this week, I'm only using pentatonic number 2. And then you go, okay, now this week I'm only going to do pentatonic number 3. And you experiment. You try to find other notes that go, or try to find those blues notes. You try to find those 9 3/3 or 6. And like I said, some of the pentatonic scales will be like, yeah, this is easy and fun to play, and someone will be like, eh. But those are the ones that are eh. Those are kind of the ones you want to concentrate on, because if you already can play no problem pentatonic number 1, you might end up finding some really cool, useful licks that you never thought of, that you would never have played in pentatonic number 1. You might find in pentatonic number 3, for example. The other thing is everybody else is playing number 1. If you go to number 3, you're going to sound different than all the other guitar players, just by the nature of what scale you're choosing, or what inversion or version of the scale you're choosing. They're all A minor pentatonics. It's the same 5 notes, no matter what pentatonic you play. But they're going to have, and again, this deals with kind of the caged method. The major chord, the A major chord right here, that's a C form, is where this minor pentatonic is. And there's something about that. There's something about that low, and again, that lick that you hear there, you can do it down an octave by playing it in pentatonic number 3, which we're going to do next week. But that's, if I were to play that, it works there. You know, but it's just basically the same, like, but you're just on the fat strings. So it has a kind of a stinkier sound, you know, like your face naturally makes this like something smells really bad. That just naturally happens when you play on those bottom strings. I don't know. It happens to me. Just get stinky face on. It's a new language. I know, Neon. Here I'm going to tell you this, something that I tell a lot of people. When I first started playing guitar, when I first got serious about guitar, I was like 14 years old, 13. Actually, yeah, 13 years old is when I started getting serious about guitar. Same year as my parents getting divorced. So that was kind of traumatic, and I think it kind of led to me kind of pouring myself into the guitar rather than other things. I moved around a lot as a kid, too. And so I think that kind of made me... I'm actually very outgoing, and I make friends very easily. And that's a byproduct of moving around a lot because I had to... It was either that or not have any friends. But at the same time, I would recoil into my bedroom and just practice and just play guitar nonstop. And I remember getting Guitar Player magazine, and I would read it like cover to cover, and I would understand maybe 10% of what they were talking about, especially when it came to gear and tubes and distortion and, you know, distortion boxes and fuzz boxes and some of that stuff I can't even, I couldn't tell you the difference between a distortion and an overdrive. I might be able to hear the difference or feel the difference, but is one, I don't know. To me, they're the same thing, but I know that they're the purists that we go, no, distortion is this and overdrive is this and fuzz is, now fuzz, I definitely can tell the difference. Fuzz is definitely a different kind of sound. But anyway, I would read the magazine cover to cover, and I would understand maybe 10% of it. But the next issue, the next month came out, and I'd read it, and I'd read all the ads, and the ads, I'd be like, you know, I'd get there, and like next issue, maybe I would understand 12% of it. And then the next issue, I'd understand about 13.5% of it, you know, and I'd learn about a new guitar player, and I'd check them out and go, oh, wow, that guitar player is really cool. And then, you know, the next issue, I'd understand 16% or something like that. So it's kind of one of the things where when you watch my live stream, I'm going to restate something probably too many times. And I'm going to try to explain it from different angles because we all learn different ways. Some of us can just copy someone visually. Like if they play something, they can copy them. Some of them need to have it explained to them. Some of them, I know, like, I think John's this way. He needs to understand it. He wants to understand every little note that he's playing and why. Why do I play this note? I think Sam is kind of that way too. Sam, not Sam Seats, but Sam, where is Sam? Sam been on it all? But Neon, if you keep watching, especially, I'm just going to keep talking about pentatonics. We're going to go through all 5 of the pentatonic scales, and we're just going to use this jam track because it's pretty easy to kind of, dig deeper into something if you start to understand a little bit of it, and then you understand a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, and so you'll find that your understanding gets stronger. So you can go back, and we've been talking about this now. Bruce, has it been about, this is like the 5th week or something? I called this one the Bride of, what did I call this? The Bride of Pentatonic Madness. So next week is the Son of Pentatonic Madness, and then the Son of the Bride of Pentatonic Madness or whatever. Or Pentatonic Madness, the sequel, or Pentatonic Madness, the prequel. I don't know. I maybe just start referencing movie names in, Pentatonic, back to the Pentatonic Madness or whatever. So, Lord of the Pentatonic Madness. Pentatonic Madness, A New Hope. just gonna do reference movie titles. So, common people. There are 3 different ways of learning: visuals, seeing images, diagrams, videos, etc., auditory, hearing, lectures, a kinesthetic and that movement hands-on. I'm a kinesthetic learner basically, which is the most difficult to teach via video. If I had a student in the room, I don't teach anymore. But if I had privately anyway, I don't. I mean, I teach here, but yeah, it's easy to do that. And so you're right. And there may even be a couple other ways people learn. But you may be the expert on it. But yeah, we homeschooled, and all three of our kids learned three different ways, all totally different ways. And Alex, my oldest, was like total kinesthetic. He could learn anything. He would take things apart, put it back together again, and do that. He would build guitars. He would build stuff, and he took a Pro Tools class, and at the city college, and by the end of the first semester, he was basically teaching the class because I think he knew as much, if not more, than the professor. And so a lot of kids were having troubles with it, and he was helping them. So he was like the TA, unpaid TA. He didn't even get the class for free. But yeah, and then Jack, our other son's an engineer, and not a recording engineer, but a mechanical engineer, and he worked at NASA, worked at JPL, working on Mars rovers and stuff like that. He designed the arm that's going to go up in, I don't know, 2030 or something. It's going to bring down some core samples of Mars. And he was in college. He was still getting his bachelor's degree when he was doing that. But he could learn anything. Like when he took French at college, the professor said, "You need to be a linguist. You speak French so well, so fast." And the kids learned French in homeschool. And that was we went to France a couple times with them, and but it was really fun. So, oh, you're always lurking. Okay, I appreciate that comment. And yeah, always correct me if I'm wrong. If there's really not 5 ways people learn, there's only 3 ways. I totally accept that. I'm not gonna because all I know is that I try when I'm working with you all is to give you visuals, right? If I can, if I have the time, or if I'm not too lazy. To describe it, to play it, my goal here is it's the best comment I ever got. I feel like on my YouTube, I don't. The commenter said, I don't teach people how to play music. I teach people how to make music. So I really am, because my channel, which I started back in 2011, right after my dad passed away, I kind of got more serious into it because. Like I say, I think in my intro video, that when my dad passed away, everything he knew about jazz, and he'd seen everybody. I mean, he'd seen all the greats, all those memories, everything he knew about baseball, which he was like one of those almanac guys, and everything he knew about family history was immediately gone like that. And it was like, dang it. And there were times, you know how it is when your parent passes away and you go, oh, Dad would know. And you're like, oh, dang it. And so, that was a drag. And so I thought, well, at the point that, by 1991, or 2000, I'm sorry, by 2011, I had been teaching guitar, and I just recently quit teaching private lessons. I'd been teaching for 35 years, from the age of basically 35 to the age of 15 years old. I started teaching guitar lessons to the age of 50. And I wanted to get that. Some of it was getting, I would call it the pedagogy, the teaching method, that I got so many kids playing guitar, and so many of my students ended up in bands and stuff like that. Nobody famous, not like Satriani had a bunch of famous students, but they were having a blast with it and playing and having bands in high school and even playing into college and stuff like that. I wanted to get that teaching method up on YouTube so everybody could enjoy it when I'm dead and gone. So actually, it's not that far-fetched. I just got back last night from a funeral in Indiana. I flew back to Indiana for the weekend to go to my sister-in-law's funeral, and she was 60. She died of cancer, and I know my days are numbered. God has them numbered, and that there's not a whole lot I can do about it. But I can get all the stuff that I've learned through my life and try to share it. And then my premise for my channel was originally, and still is, Pro Guitar Secrets. I'm trying to kind of show you the stuff that, like, oh, dang it, I wish I'd known that when I was 15 or 20 or 25. And I try to give all that stuff away if I can. So, um, yeah, Common, that's the problem with school. I did horribly in school. I could not, like, and so I don't know which one of those three learning styles is memorization, but like history, science, when you had to memorize all the weird names of all the parts of a bacteria or something like that, I couldn't do it. It would go in. And one of the problems is when I was a kid, when I was right at learning how to read age, like first grade through fourth grade, we lived in just outside of Washington, D.C., and it was a really progressive school that did things in, they were like, oh, this is the ways that they've completely abandoned now. Oh, God bless you, Common. Ways that they completely abandoned now, right? But one of the things was they stopped teaching phonics, and they started teaching sight reading. And what sight reading was is they would hold up a word and you'd memorize it, and they'd hold up another word and you memorize it. So you'd have sometime and anytime and nobody and everybody and then you read it and say it out loud and everything. And so consequently, when I read one word at a time like this. And if I'm reading in bed, if I've got a book, I don't have a book handy. I don't read a lot because I'm reading one word at a time, and it's just like dun 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 dun, and I'm exhausted. Fortunately, when I learned to read music, I learned that you read through the phrases, and that's how you're really supposed to read literature or words. You're supposed to read through the words and they all connect, and it's just phrase, and you read the sentences, and some people can read paragraphs. Look at a paragraph and read a paragraph, whatever. And it's just that's why I get so sleepy when I read. But music, I don't have that problem. Don't have that problem at all with music. So thankfully, I learned to read music the proper way. And I'm not sure how that exactly happened, to be honest. I taught my kids how to read using a book called Teach Your Kid or Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Lessons. And it was a really cool book, and it was all phonics based. But the cool thing was it had everything you're supposed to say. The parent says this, A is like, and I'm just reading this to them. And then, so here's an A, and here's the sound an A can make, A or A or whatever. And it was really, really cool. And I was able to teach all three of our kids to read when they were very, very young, 3 and 4 years old, through this book. And they loved sitting down on Dad's lap and going through the book, and it was. I wouldn't have traded that for the world. So sight reading thing, Sam, one of the things I talk about with sight reading music is if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. So some of the best musicians in the world can't read a note of music. So it's not a requirement like George Benson can't read a note of music. Tim Pierce can't read music. He can read chord charts and stuff like that. So can Benson, they can read rhythms. But as far as like reading notes, it's like, yeah. And he never needed to. The kind of work he got was like making records, and it's like, oh, here's a song, here's a jam, and like here's the progression, make something of it. And if they wrote notes for him, it would be bad because you're not hiring him to play guitar, you're hiring him to be him. But if you think you're going to use it, or if you can set up situations where you need to use it, whether it's playing classical guitar with a flautist at a coffee shop once a week, something like that, where you're like, okay, I got to learn how to read so I can do that. And you may make $50 every time you do it or something, if you're lucky. If it's tips only, you'll make $3. It's been my experience. But unless there's a family member that comes to the coffee shop, or if you're starting to do session work, or if you write music, like if you want to start writing music and you want to write a song, like I did that. I wrote that song, Emma Louise. basically get the idea. I wrote that out in tab and music, mainly because with the guitar, the reason tab is so popular is because if I saw that in music only, and what I was trying to do, that's what I would play. I would be like, that's not what I'm doing. I'm doing a lick that's very common on guitar. You know, like, I'm doing that lick, but I'm doing it in an unusual way that I feel like. What is it? And I wrote that song to kind of practice my pull-offs as well. And that's one of the things I've always done is if I need to work on a skill or a technique, I would write a song that really uses that technique a lot, so I have to get it down if I want to get the song down. And that's as old as music itself. That's called an etude. If you've ever seen a song called a study or etude number 4, you know, it's a study. It was written probably for students. Most composers taught to pay the bills, and you know, they would write these etudes, and the etudes became more popular sometimes than their symphonies. So yeah, so that's kind of what I would do, is I would create etudes to help me develop some kind of technique. And sometimes I would teach them to students, but you know, not always. And there are songs that you could learn that really hammer certain techniques. When I think of like doing pentatonic scales with pull-offs, you can learn the solo to Stairway to Heaven, and Jimmy Page, you know, if you play that solo plucking every note, it just sounds weird. But if you play it like he did, it's with a lot of pull-offs. So, comment, I'm assuming you're in Ireland, Scotland, or you're in Scotland or in England somewhere. Give me pounds, and God bless you, because that's more than $10. Sam, Stam, I couldn't think of your name. I was talking about you earlier, and I couldn't think of your last name. And I should, because John Stamos, right? That's your brother. John Stamos is your dad, right? Let's see. Yeah, so that's, you know, so the tips on the sight reading thing. One thing you can also do, what I tend to do, Ireland, okay, nice. My daughter was in Ireland in March and loved it. Oh my gosh, they loved it. We were in Scotland in June and loved it, and Ireland's on our short list, so I am going to try to drive. My son-in-law said, you know, it was weird for about 20 minutes, and then it just felt natural after a while. And when you're out in the country roads, it's more like you just got to remember to kind of get over to the left when someone's coming on a one lane road or something like that. And wasn't dust in the wind. Yeah, you know, that sounds right. 6'9", or yeah, 6'9". That's funny. I just noticed what your handle was. Okay, you must be in junior high, or I'm in junior high for thinking it. Not that John. Oh shoot! Darn it. Well, the funny thing is, you know, Sam, you know my John Stamos story, and my family was renting this house in Pentwater, Michigan, which is, you live in Michigan, and every summer we rent this house, and there's you know, when you rent a house or something, they always have a guest book that you're supposed to sign, and you're scrolling through the guest book and reading who's been there, and John Stamos stayed there with his wife at the time. Now I don't think they're married anymore, but what was her name? She was really pretty. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy. We slept in the same bed as John Stamos and what's her name. And that's my John Stamos story. That's pretty much it. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Bruce, for digging that up. Music reading basics. Yeah, we talked about that. And one of the things I tend to do when I'm reading notes is I don't read the notes so much interval. You know, I read the intervals, the distance between notes. You know, so if I see a D and an E and an F, I'm not saying D and E and F. I'm seeing D and I'm going up a whole step, up a half step, down a third, whatever. I don't know why, but sometimes that to me makes it a little bit more musical rather than thinking D, E, F. I'm thinking D, E, F, right? You don't want, you don't want to, when you're reading, it's kind of one of those things I learned doing sessions. I should have learned before that, but no one ever taught me. But it's like you see D, E, F, and you can play it like that, or you can go, or you got to make it musical. The reason they hired a guitar player to play those three notes was because they wanted it to sound like a guitar. And if you go, it sounds like a piano, bam, 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 piano sample of a guitar. So yeah, so try, maybe look at the distance between notes. But again, it's kind of, I think the biggest thing is if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. So if you just want to learn how to read music, but you don't have a reason to learn music, I don't know how you would keep it. If all piano, when you study piano and you said this is what you did, you learned, I think you played piano originally or whatever. Some people learn to read, and they can't really do, piano's harder because you got to read two staves at the same time. But if you get good at it, it's probably because you got pretty good at reading music. I miss, oh yeah, I would concentrate on learning and developing basic skills. Oh yeah. Yeah, and that was Neon's. I'll be here from now on. I'm a beginner. Should I do basic as well as this too? To be honest, here's the thing. I was just with my brother-in-law whose wife passed away. That's where I was in Indiana. And he's a big guy. He's got big hands, but he's like big guy. And so he's got fat fingers, sausage fingers, And he was like, "What guitar should I get?" And and I'm thinking, like a classical guitar or a steel string guitar with a classical neck, something like that, something like my folk singer, right? And he said, "I don't know if I'll stick with it." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know." He said, "How much should I spend?" I don't want to spend too much because I may not stick with it. And I'm like, "Yeah, but if you get a wider neck, it might be easier." And I was like, if you can learn a G chord, a C chord, a D chord, and an E minor chord, then with a capo you can pretty much play any song. He's goes to church and stuff like that, so we want to learn how to play worship songs. So you can play most worship songs. I mean, I was at his church out this weekend, and the worship leader just moved the capo around and pretty much played everything in the key of G, which is pretty typical. And but then I was thinking just this morning when we were talking this morning, I was thinking, one thing that Eric could work on would be just play open blues in E. So to answer your question, Neon, you can kind of work on this. What I'm teaching is not advanced. This is not advanced. This is beginner. I'm showing you a scale that does go across a bunch of strings, and it sounds advanced, but once you get it memorized, then you can start making music and soloing and figuring out like, oh, Joe Bonamassa did this or whatever. And today we were just talking about a second scale. That's a little weird to finger, and once you get down, again, it is not beginner in the sense that, you may not have the technique to pick and finger at the same time like this. But what I always talk about is taking chunks or snippets. And you can take the middle two strings of the pentatonic number 1, and you can just kind of work on that. Try to get your fingers to play. Try to keep your pinky available. See this? I'm not tucking my pinky. You'll see me tuck my pinky sometimes. But generally, I try to keep my pinky available. So when I need it, I've got it. But what I was just thinking was, with big fat fingers, actually playing like blues in E, that's something that guys with big fingers could totally do. So that's probably what I'm going to do with Eric. I may try to do a video lesson with him or something like that. Yeah, no, that's basically the biggest neck you'll find. The trouble is, not a lot of acoustic guitars. You like walk into Guitar Center and find a 1 3/4 inch neck. Most of them are 1 5/8, and so you almost have to special or take a nylon string guitar and put steel strings on it. But sometimes that doesn't work because the tension on steel strings is much stronger than nylon, and you'll pull the bridge off eventually if you put steel strings on a nylon because the way the bridge is and everything. So I may be on. He's got money, so it's not like money's a problem. So I may say, look, here's a vintage Gibson folk singer, which was basically a steel string nylon guitar. That sounds contradictory, but it was all the folk singers in the 50s and 60s were playing nylon guitars, like Martin nylon string guitars. And so Gibson came out with a steel string version of it. And so there are not many of them out there. I have one. And they're weird looking because they have two pick guards. But that's, that neck that neck is a little bit wider. It's a classical guitar neck instead of a regular steel string neck. So it's a little bit fatter. But yeah, Bruce, what were the lessons that I did with the E minor or the open E when we did like blues lessons? I think we did E, A, B, and what were those? You probably have that handy, which I appreciate. I may send those to Eric and see if he thinks, oh, I can do this. It's not impossible. But I did a video guitar for people with small hands. I should do I should do a fat finger guitar lesson. And I did get some comments, and I 100% understand people doing the comments being mad at me for having such long fingers when I did the small hands. I was just giving you samples, and I listed a bunch of guitar players that actually have really small hands. I think Angus Young was one of them. I know Andy Summers was one, and I'm like, Andy Summers, Every Breath You Take is one of the hardest songs to play. It's the biggest stretch. So Leon's in the house. Steel strings, are being more common. That's interesting. I haven't seen 1 3/4. Oh, that's the same as what you just said. For some reason, when I saw the 7/5, I was thinking, I wonder if you can get like a 2-inch neck. But that doesn't necessarily make it a lot easier. And I've seen guys with fat fingers play and it's like playing a C chord with fat fingers is really hard to get those open strings out. So I may talk to him about that, and maybe I can do a video lesson for him. He's just looking for things to do now that he's widowed. He wants to lose a bunch of weight. It was a long battle, so it was kind of one of those things where he's still just catching his breath, I think, and so but he's got family around him right now, and of course he's got work still. He can go back to work. He's going back to work. They've been really gracious to giving him a lot of time off from work and everything. So, where, just logging in, where? Oh, Indiana's where my brother-in-law is. I don't know. So my wife's twin brother. Trying to catch up on today's topic. Yeah, so we were basically talking about Pentatonic number 2. We're doing some licks. We were jamming over the thing. I've got to go because I've got a session to get to. I want to start carving the stuff out in case he has issues. It needs to be done. I think he needs to deliver something tonight, so he needs to have my files pretty soon. So I will. I'm gonna see. Did he give me his number? I need to see. Oh, good. He's okay. What is that? What is 617? He's French, but what's 617? You're going to beat me to this. You're back. Oh, Boston. Oh, he's in Boston. Oh, okay. There's a lot of good guitar players in Boston. All right. I wonder if he may have gone to school in Boston, but where does he live now? Okay. Yeah, I'm probably going to give him a call. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to call him before I really start carving because he may. Thank you so much. Oh, lessons 204 to 211 or less. I may have gone away from it and come back to it, Bruce. So I'm looking up. Oh, in fact, I got to make sure I take out all the ads in last week's video. I put it. Well, I want a couple ads, but I don't want a million. Let me do this. Blues. I'll type in blues and see what comes up. lesson moving pentatonics, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So there's show all 52 videos that have, probably it's in the pentatonic scales, 3 mixolydian scales, major blues scale, my favorite blues jam. Huh. Blues basics, that's it. That's way back to, yeah, back to, like, back when we were doing them every day, Bruce. 44, let's see, I got more here. 43, so 43 through, so Neon, check out 43 for, because you can start playing soloing right away. In some ways, it's almost more natural for some people to do that than to try to make chords. You know, playing chords requires a lot of different skills, and changing chords, like going from G to C, can be super duper frustrating. And so I think that might be something that you could try, and watch these videos. So I see it as 43 to, is that what you said? Yeah, see, Bruce, you didn't go back far enough. So 43 for 52. Blues Basics is what it's called. So you can go to my channel, I think, and search Blues Basics, or just enter blues, and it'll be live number, what did I say, 43 to 52. So I think, in fact, I can even give you the first one here. I could give you all of them, but let's see. I mean, that one's got 970. Shareable link. Here we go. 975 views. So it's not like it's been hugely popular, but live streams don't tend to be, because they're just like me rambling so much. So, but you know, that's part of the lesson, I guess. This one's got 1100. This one's got 800. This one's got 1000. This one's only got 400, 700. Yeah, it's not like these are making me money. Oh, why is this one set to private? Number 47 is set to private. What happened? I'm not going to change that. Maybe, I don't know, maybe one of my kids came in there, or my wife came in. I don't know. Not naked or anything like that. Just she came in to give me a kiss goodbye or something. I don't know. I could cut that out, though. I don't know why I made it private. That's why it doesn't have as many views as the other ones. So I may have to watch this one. It was 2 hours, too. I'm not going to watch it, but I can scan it. Okay. But let me go to the latest live one. So, okay, there. Oh, look, I'm live right now. Okay, I'm going to go to last week's, and let me see. I may have gotten it. Let me, what do I want? Monetization. Okay. Manage mid-rolls. Yeah, cool. So there's only an ad every 30 minutes on last week's. I must have already got to it. Okay. So I don't know if that helps, but hopefully, Neon, that helps. Let's see. Oh, it's all right, Bruce. No worries. I'm trying to do chord theory for solo singing and guitar playing. Yeah, that's one of those things where that's actually a really good skill to have, where you can play and sing at the same time. And I can do that. I did it for years. I got paid to do it. Was leading worship. At one point, I was leading worship at 4 different churches every weekend. I mean, one of them I was subbing every now and then, but 3 of them I was the worship leader every weekend. Saturday morning, Saturday night, Sunday morning, Sunday night. It was crazy. Yeah, I'm glad I'm not doing that anymore. It was exhausting. But yeah, that's what's also, also lesson, what's the blues scales? Yeah. Thanks, Bruce. Yeah, Neon, check those out. Like I said, I think I'm gonna do that with Eric. I think I'd like him to maybe do blues in E or something like that, because I think he could kind of get his fat fingers on there. So anyway, I should go. Thank you everybody for hanging out, and I will we'll talk to you later. I will see you next Monday, Lord willing. I think I'm around. I'm not going anywhere. I've just been asked by a couple composers if I'm going to be around, and I think I'm going to be here. So I hate to leave right now when we kind of got a quorum here. We got a lot of people here. What's the peak? What did we almost got the 30 people. We got the 29. Look at that. Dang it. Wait, is that 30? Oh, we got the 30. We hit 30 at around 10:20 my time. So, Richard, thank you so much. Thank you for the love, for the financial love. That always helps. I appreciate that. You can always put cash tips on videos you watch of mine as well. That's a new thing, and I've seen people do that, and I'm like, oh, cool. And sometimes it's $1 or $2, but it all adds up, and it's all, it's just, I like doing the YouTube videos, but the busier I get, the harder it is to keep them up, and or not keep them up, but stay up on them. I have one. I did a video about the Squier, the ETA Strat, that I'm almost done editing, and I'll post that soon. I've got a million ideas for other videos. I just, I've started so many different, video themes or whatever that I went, oh, I did 5 videos of this and I never did any more. I could do 20 more of those if they were to get popular. But it's like the 5 songs with 2 chord videos, those are pretty popular. The open tuning videos tend to be pretty popular, which is interesting. I need to maybe come up with a new open tuning video. That I don't have so many ideas for, though. So yeah. Oh, you were asked to do that worship. Yeah. So it's what I would tell you, Leon, is I would just find an easy song. For me, it was like Lord, I lift your name on high. Find an easy song and work it until you can sing it and play it at the same time, and just get it down. If you get one song down, that makes every other song that much easier to learn. Okay, if you just get one thing down, then you're probably going to be more likely to be able to learn the second song. Like if it takes you a month to learn one song, it might only take you 2 weeks to learn the second song and be able to play it and sing at the same time. But pretty soon you'll be learning a new song every week for the service. All you need is 3 or 4 songs for a service, and then they may want 4 other songs. They may not want well, at our church we tend to do the same song like 3 weeks. If we do a new song, we do it 3 weeks in a row, and then we give it a week and then we do it again. So we'll do it 4 weekends out of 5 so that the church learns it. So you could probably get away with doing a little bit of redundancy, but you wouldn't want to do the same set every week. People won't like that. But you could probably get to 15 songs, and then that would get you through several, that could get you through 3 months of weekends if you're leading worship. So, and of course in that 3 months you'd be learning new songs. So you might have 30 songs at the end of the 3 months that you could do. So anyway, that's I love the screen grab from this video. The Blues Basics is funny. Is this the one I blocked? Yeah, I guess so. Or no, just made private. I don't know why I did that. So, okay. I will talk to you later, and God bless you all. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next Monday. Take care. Bye-bye.